Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt that something was wrong, but they convinced you it was all in your head? That's not love, that's psychology in disguise. The truth is, people don't always hide lies with silence. Sometimes they hide them with affection, consistency, and emotion. And if you don't understand how the human mind works, you'll end up trusting the very behavior meant to deceive you. If this opened your eyes even a little, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Reset Psychology because every week we break down the hidden patterns of human behavior, the emotional games people play, and the psychological truths that will protect your peace, your mind, and your heart. Don't just react, understand. When a woman cheats, guilt becomes a silent storm inside her mind. And one of the most common ways she hides it is through emotional diversion. It's not just about lying, it's about emotional misdirection. Emotional diversion happens when she suddenly becomes more affectionate, more caring, or more involved than usual. She'll compliment you out of nowhere, send you sweet messages, and act more loving than she did before. On the surface, it looks like the relationship is improving, but underneath, it's a psychological strategy to shift attention away from the truth. Humans naturally equate affection with honesty, so when she shows love, your mind relaxes. You start to believe everything is okay because love, in your eyes, equals safety. But in her case, that affection isn't a sign of connection, it's an emotional cover-up. Inside her, guilt creates discomfort, and she has two choices: confess or compensate. Most people choose compensation because it allows them to reduce their guilt without facing consequences. So she convinces herself that by being extra nice, she's somehow balancing out the wrong she's done. Every "I love you," every sweet gesture, every random act of kindness becomes a way to silence the guilt that's eating her from the inside. The irony is she might even believe she's being more genuine now, but what's really happening is that she's emotionally distracting both you and herself from the truth she doesn't want to face. You might notice subtle changes. She's more physically affectionate. She brings up memories of your past together. She's overly invested in pleasing you. She might even suggest quality time more often or act more considerate about your needs. It feels good, it feels right. But deep down, something about it feels slightly off, almost forced. That's because guilt-driven affection has a different energy. It's not born from love, it's born from fear. Fear of getting caught, fear of losing control, fear of having her image shattered in your eyes. It's affection mixed with anxiety, and that emotional blend can feel confusing if you pay close attention. The deeper layer of emotional diversion is manipulation, though often not consciously planned. She's not always setting out to deceive you maliciously. She's trying to deceive herself first. By showering you with attention, she's rewriting her own narrative. I can't be a bad person if I'm being such a good partner. This is the dangerous part because once she starts believing that, she can maintain the lie much longer. Her brain learns to equate good behavior now with moral balance later. So even though she's betraying the relationship, she feels justified in her mind. For you, it's difficult to detect because emotional diversion works on your natural instincts. We are wired to associate love with safety. When someone shows us affection, our guard drops, our intuition quiets, and our logic takes a backseat. That's exactly what makes this trick so powerful. It hides deception under the warmth of intimacy. You stop questioning her late replies, her vague answers, or her sudden busy schedule, because emotionally, she's giving you what you crave: connection. And by the time you realize something's off, she's already rewritten the emotional script between you, convincing both of you that nothing's wrong. That's how emotional diversion doesn't just hide cheating, it blinds you to it. Selective transparency is one of the most clever psychological tools a cheating woman uses to hide her actions. It's not complete silence and it's not total honesty. It's something right in between. She knows that if she hides everything, you'll notice the distance, the secrecy, the inconsistencies. But if she shares just enough details, you'll believe she's being open. It's a calculated form of manipulation designed to build your trust while keeping the truth just out of reach. She might casually mention a man's name from work, drop a few harmless stories about him, or even show you a message that seems perfectly innocent. By doing that, she plants an idea in your mind. Why would she tell me about him if she was hiding something? And that's exactly the illusion she wants to create. Controlled openness that feels authentic but is carefully engineered. This trick works because the human brain equates honesty with safety. When someone volunteers information, we instinctively relax. We think, someone who's hiding something wouldn't be this open. What we don't realize is that selective transparency feeds on that bias. It gives you a taste of truth just to mask the rest. The details she shares are hand-picked, rehearsed, and strategically harmless. Maybe she tells you she worked late with a coworker, but leaves out the part where she stayed after to grab drinks. Maybe she admits that someone complimented her, but omits how flirtatious the conversation actually got. It's truth mixed with omission, and omission is where deception truly lives. Selective transparency is powerful because it creates confusion in your intuition. When you sense something is off, your mind searches for evidence. And she's already given you just enough proof to make you doubt your suspicions. You think back to all the things she told you, all the stories that seemed normal, and you convince yourself you're overthinking. That's how she maintains control. Not through total lies, but through selective truths. It's manipulation disguised as honesty. She's not lying about what she said. She's lying about what she didn't say. And that makes it nearly impossible to catch, because technically she's not wrong. She's simply incomplete. This behavior also helps her manage her own guilt. Complete lies are harder to live with. Selective truths feel safer. She convinces herself she's still being honest enough. That inner justification helps her maintain emotional stability while continuing the deception. It's self-soothing. By controlling what she reveals, she avoids both confrontation and confession. And because you see her as transparent, you're less likely to question inconsistencies when they arise. You'll fill in the blanks with your own trust, and that's exactly how she hides. You do the covering for her. Selective transparency isn't just a tactic, it's psychological art. It preys on trust, manipulates perception, and creates a false sense of closeness. You'll feel included while remaining completely excluded from the truth. That's the genius of it. She never has to lie outright because she's already trained you to believe partial honesty means full loyalty. Projection is one of the most powerful and confusing psychological tricks a woman can use to hide cheating. It's when she takes her own guilt, her own anxiety, and her own wrongdoing and throws it onto you. Instead of dealing with the discomfort of her secret, she accuses you of being distant, dishonest, or even unfaithful. It's a defense mechanism rooted in self-preservation. When she feels the tension building inside her, her mind searches for a way to release it. The easiest way is to project it outward. So she starts to say things like, "You've been acting weird lately," or "Are you sure you're not talking to someone else?" She's not asking because she suspects you. She's asking because she's guilty herself. Accusing you helps her temporarily shift the emotional burden off her shoulders. Projection works because it catches you off guard. When someone you love suddenly doubts your loyalty, your first reaction isn't to attack back. It's to defend yourself. You start reassuring her, proving your love, explaining your actions, and overcompensating. In that process, you stop observing her behavior and start focusing on yourself. That's exactly how she hides. By keeping you on the defensive, she keeps your eyes off her truth. It's psychological misdirection, much like a magician distracting you with one hand while the real trick happens with the other. You become emotionally busy protecting your image while she continues her deception unnoticed. Over time, this tactic also reshapes the emotional balance in the relationship. You begin to feel guilty for things you haven't done. You walk on eggshells trying not to trigger her suspicion, while she gains control through emotional chaos. The more you defend yourself, the more she feels justified in her projection. It becomes a cycle. Her guilt feeds her accusations, and your guiltless defense feeds her power. You start doubting your own intuition because you're too busy trying to prove your innocence. Meanwhile, she feels safer hiding behind her accusations. The best hiding spot, after all, is behind the one doing the defending. Projection isn't always deliberate, though. Many times it's a subconscious reaction to guilt. Her mind can't handle the internal contradiction of loving you while betraying you, so it flips the narrative to protect itself. If she convinces herself that you might be unfaithful, her own actions don't feel as wrong. It's a mental trick that helps her sleep at night. But what makes it truly dangerous is that it manipulates your emotions while protecting hers. You become emotionally drained, constantly trying to reassure someone who's actually the one lying. If you ever find yourself in a situation where every argument ends with you defending yourself, where you're constantly being accused without evidence, stop and take a step back. Ask yourself why this pattern keeps repeating. Sometimes the louder someone accuses, the more they're hiding. Projection is not just a sign of insecurity. It's often a mirror reflecting their own hidden truth. And once you see that, the illusion of innocence starts to fall apart. Routine reinforcement is one of the most subtle and effective tricks a cheating woman uses to conceal her actions. It's the art of keeping everything exactly the same so that nothing looks suspicious. Humans naturally notice change, not consistency. Our brains are wired to pick up on differences in behavior, tone, and energy. So when someone wants to hide something, the smartest thing they can do is not change a thing. She'll continue sending good morning texts, calling at the usual times, sharing the same little jokes, and behaving like the exact partner you've always known. It's psychological camouflage. By maintaining routine, she builds a wall of normalcy around her secret. You look for signs, but there are none because she's mastered the art of consistency. What makes this tactic so dangerous is that it disarms your intuition. Most people associate cheating with noticeable behavioral changes. Less affection, more distance, new habits. But when she's intentionally consistent, those red flags never appear. If anything, she might even become slightly more predictable, more attentive to your needs, or more engaged in your conversations. It feels like stability, but it's calculated stability. She's not acting that way because everything is fine. She's acting that way to convince you that everything is fine. Routine becomes her disguise, and you mistake repetition for reassurance. There's a psychological comfort in routine. When something feels familiar, we stop questioning it. It's the same reason people trust routines in their daily lives. They make us feel safe. She knows that. So she uses the safety of sameness to keep your mind quiet. You stop analyzing because there's nothing unusual to analyze. It's like hiding a secret in plain sight. The normal behavior becomes the mask. You'll think, if she were cheating, I'd notice something different, not realizing that her sameness is the trick. She's not trying to change your perception, she's trying to keep it exactly as it is. Over time, this illusion becomes stronger because consistency builds trust. The more predictable she is, the more you believe in her loyalty. You'll defend her if anyone ever doubts her. You'll say, "She's always been the same. She'd never do something like that." And that's exactly the psychological protection she's counting on. She's conditioning your mind to associate her patterns with honesty. Every repeated behavior becomes another layer of camouflage, another piece of proof that she's faithful. But behind that stability lies structure, a controlled performance that requires awareness and planning. She must remember to text at the right time, maintain the same tone, and follow the same patterns. It's a delicate balance between truth and illusion. And if she slips even slightly, she'll cover it by emphasizing her usual habits again, resetting the pattern before you can notice the difference. Routine reinforcement isn't about blending in. It's about creating predictability so strong that you can't imagine deception living inside it. And that's why it works. It's not loud, it's not emotional, and it's not suspicious. It's quiet, calm, and consistent, the perfect hiding place for a lie. Emotional deflection is one of the most manipulative psychological tactics a woman can use when she's hiding something, especially cheating. It's not about lying directly, it's about shifting the emotional focus until you question your own reality. When you start sensing something is off, maybe she's more distant, less engaged, or her energy just feels different, you naturally start to ask questions. You might say, "Is everything okay?" Or, "You've been acting strange lately." But instead of addressing your concern, she turns it around on you. Suddenly, you're the problem. She says things like, "You don't trust me anymore?" Or, "Why are you being so insecure?" And in a moment, the spotlight moves away from her and lands right on you. That's emotional deflection in action. It turns suspicion into guilt, and it silences the truth before it can surface. What makes this trick so powerful is how it manipulates empathy. When someone you love expresses hurt because of your questions, you instantly feel remorse. You don't want to hurt them, you don't want to seem controlling or paranoid, so you pull back. You tell yourself, "Maybe I'm overthinking," and you apologize for doubting her. But that's exactly what she wants. By making you feel bad for asking, she conditions you not to ask again. Every time you try to bring up your intuition, she uses your emotions against you, twisting concern into accusation and care into toxicity. Over time, you stop questioning her not because you trust her more, but because you've been emotionally trained to avoid conflict. The psychological foundation of emotional deflection lies in guilt transference. It's a defense mechanism that allows her to ease her internal tension by giving that guilt to you. When she feels the anxiety of being caught, she flips the narrative so she can stand on moral high ground. If she can convince you that you're the one with trust issues, then she doesn't have to confront her own dishonesty. She gets to play the role of the victim, the misunderstood, unfairly accused partner, while you become the one begging for forgiveness. It's emotional manipulation at its finest because it takes your love and your empathy and turns them into tools that protect her lie. You'll notice that when emotional deflection becomes a pattern, communication starts to die. You no longer feel safe bringing up your feelings because every time you do, it turns into an argument about your insecurity. That's the silent goal of this tactic, to create emotional exhaustion. Once you're drained, you stop confronting her. You begin second-guessing your own perceptions, thinking maybe the problem is you. But deep down, your intuition still whispers that something isn't right. And that's the tragedy of emotional deflection. It doesn't just hide the truth, it destroys your ability to trust your instincts. By the time you realize what's been happening, you're not just betrayed, you're emotionally disoriented, unsure of what's real anymore. And that confusion is exactly what kept her secret safe all along. Emotional reframing is one of the most dangerous psychological tricks a woman can use to hide cheating because it doesn't just disguise the act, it reshapes the entire story behind it. When confronted or caught, she doesn't focus on what she did. She focuses on why she did it, and she turns that reason into something that makes her look like the victim instead of the betrayer. She'll say things like, "I only did it because I felt lonely," or "You were never there for me," or "I needed someone to make me feel loved again." The purpose of this isn't to confess, it's to control the emotional narrative. She's not admitting guilt, she's reframing her actions so they seem like a reaction, not a decision. And once she changes the emotional context, she manipulates you into feeling sorry for her instead of angry. This tactic works so effectively because people naturally respond to emotional vulnerability with compassion. When someone cries, explains, or expresses pain, your instincts soften. She knows this. So she leans into that vulnerability at the exact moment she needs to regain control. She might not even shed real tears, but she'll make sure her tone, her expressions, and her words carry a sense of sadness and regret that triggers your empathy. Instead of facing the consequences of betrayal, she turns the situation into one where you start comforting her. You go from being the one who was hurt to being the one providing reassurance. That's the core of emotional reframing. It flips the emotional roles completely. At a deeper psychological level, emotional reframing helps her protect her self-image. People who cheat often experience what's called cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort of doing something that conflicts with their morals or self-concept. By reframing her actions as something that just happened because of your neglect, her loneliness, or bad timing, she relieves that tension. It allows her to see herself not as a bad person, but as a misunderstood one. In her mind, she becomes the one who was driven to cheat, not the one who chose to. And by selling that story to you, she reinforces it for herself. The more you believe it, the easier it becomes for her to believe it too. What makes this trick so manipulative is that it weaponizes empathy. Instead of taking accountability, she uses emotional storytelling to disarm your anger. You stop demanding honesty because you're too focused on understanding her pain. She might even bring up moments from your past, times you argued, things you said, mistakes you made, to build her case. It becomes less about what she did wrong and more about what pushed her to do it. It's not confession, it's persuasion. She reframes betrayal as a symptom of emotional deprivation, convincing you that you share some responsibility for her choices. In the end, emotional reframing doesn't heal, it manipulates. It turns betrayal into a tragedy instead of a wrongdoing, guilt into sympathy, and deception into justification. It's a psychological game of rewriting the story until the truth no longer looks like betrayal, but like pain misunderstood. And by the time you realize what happened, she's already shifted from being the one who broke your trust to the one who needs your forgiveness.